Hi everyone, I am live. Let's see. Hi. I'm gonna get you on the live now. There we go. Hello.
Hel- Hello, good morning.
Good morning. How's it going? I was having a bit of technical difficulties.
Wouldn't be an Instagram live without any of those.
Exactly. How are you?
I'm well. I'm well. Excited to chat with you.
Yes, me too. Thank you so much for doing this and for being such a great sport with the feature. And we're just so happy to be in touch with you.
Of course. Yeah, thank you for generously inviting me to be a part of it.
Absolutely. First, let me ask, how did the surgery go for the wife?
Great. Yeah,
Good, good, good.
she's doing good.
All
Thank
right,
you.
amazing, beautiful. Nice to hear that. We said a little bit of prayers this morning and made sure that everything went according to plan. So I'm glad
Thank
to
you.
hear that.
Thank you.
So I'm going to tell our audience, our guests, a little bit about why we decided to do this live and because we're absolutely obsessed with you and what you're doing, um, Ambra and I, and kind of want to talk about compassionate living. Um, and, the theme of this live is compassionate living, a path to a better world.
Mm,
I feel that we live in a time right now where, there's a lack of empathy and compassion. And I think that you are bringing something to the table that I haven't seen brought the way that you're doing it. And I thought it would be an amazing experience to not only learn from you, but to also bring it to everybody around the world as much as we can.
mm.
So, um, I'm going to start by introducing myself. My name is Tristan Cunningham. I can't even say my name. I'm so nervous. My name is Tristan Cunningham. I'm the founder, creative director, and executive editor-in-chief of Trua Magazine. At Trua, we're dedicated to highlighting the underserved. Trua is where every story finds its voice. And our hope is to change the media landscape by providing authentic representation to underrepresented creatives and entrepreneurs. So, with that said, we are thrilled to share our passion for on our theme today, which is compassionate living, a path to a better world. And my question to you is, you know, not to you, Manoj, but to the audience, is we really want to bring exploration on how we can incorporate compassion into our lives through mindfulness. Compassion isn't just a feeling, it's a practice that can transform our interactions, our work, our communities. And today we'll be discussing with Manoj practical ways to bring more compassion into our everyday lives and how mindfulness can support our journeys. Um, I'm going to start just very quickly by saying a little bit about myself, why this theme is so important to me personally. Not only because at True we believe that the power of compassion helps to bridge gaps and create a more inclusive world, but my own journey as a mixed race individual, being Haitian, born and raised in Haiti, emigrated to the US at the age of 15, I found myself not necessarily knowing what box to tick and didn't feel I belonged with any particular ethnic group, which really helped to shape the person that I am today. Which I think I'm always extremely welcoming because I've been through a time where I didn't feel welcomed and I didn't know where to belong. So I think this has taught me the importance of empathy and really expanded my understanding and connecting with others. I believe Manoj um, will help propel us further into this and help us implement this practice into our everyday lives. So, joining us today is the incredible Manoj Dias. And tell me if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yeah, you
Okay,
are. Thank you.
beautiful. A renowned meditation teacher, author of the book Still Together, and co founder of Open. Manoj's work is mindfulness and meditation, and he has transformed countless lives, helping people find balance and cultivate compassion in their daily routine. Manoj, thank you for being with us today. Can you share your experience and what drew you to mindfulness and how it has shaped your understanding of compassion in your life and career?
Mm. Yeah, thank you for the introduction.
Absolutely.
I mean, what drew me to work was suffering, to be really honest with you. There was a period in my life, actually, probably my whole life up until my mid 20s, when I was suffering from one thing or another, whether it was my mind causing the problems or whether it was my body. Over time, I realized both were interlinked and interconnected. But I had a realization, um, you know, I was in a corporate career prior to, entering this space. I had a realization at that time that the majority of my problems were self-made, that were coming from me. So when I went to my first, meditation class, and I had a moment of really recognizing and seeing my mind clearly and seeing the chaos that was in my mind, I knew that the pathway to really transforming my life and to finding happiness and joy and all the things that I craved was through first understanding and looking inward, and then being able to change the way I perceive the world. So mindfulness became the foundation and the vehicle for me to be able to do that. And then, I've been doing this now for 16, 17 years. Mindfulness and compassion are two wings of the same bird. Without one, it's really hard to have the other. Um, we naturally cultivate mindfulness when we sit with ourselves and we see that internal chaos, or we see that judgmental voice, or we see our own tendency to self-sabotage and to engage in destructive behavior.
Mhm.
And over time, compassion naturally arises, right? We have to, in order to stay present and come back to our breath, as an example, or to stay present and come back to a sensation or a sound. And as we do that, compassion naturally arises for ourselves. And our relationship with ourself begins to change.
Mhm.
And in that moment, we start to then perceive everything else around us differently. Because the way we treat ourselves is ultimately how we treat other people.
Others.
And so for me, the pathway to compassionate living started with first being really present in my own body, being really present in my own life, and then naturally allowing this quality to emerge and to lean into that, and seeing that compassion was really a way of living my life that was ultimately going to give me the things that I really wanted in the world, which was, a peaceful life, more harmonious life, and a sense of meaning.
Beautiful. Oh my God. Um, as I, Amber and I, when we speak, I always go, I'm gonna go to Manoj's Instagram because I feel so peaceful when I'm there. So you are definitely doing that because we definitely feel it. Your phrasing for beings of every kind, as it pairs with our mission to provide a platform and space for the underserved and underrepresented. Um, I wanted to come to the book,
Mm.
Still Together. You've gotten some praises from some other people that I admire, Young Pueblo, Yassar Dali Ward, Dr. Miles Neal, um, have really praised your approach to stillness. Um, Tell me a little bit about the book, Still Together, and why you dedicated it to your daughter,
Yeah,
Tyla, sorry.
no, you're fine. Yeah, I think that book was written. I had the book deal in 2019. And I have this really bad trait of waiting till the last minute to do everything. And I thought I had so much time when it came to that book because it was a 3 year window to write the book. But then COVID kind of happened, and I found myself stuck in my house with 12, with I think 10 months to go before the manuscript was due. And I had to write a book about connection whilst I was in COVID
Not
lockdown in
connecting.
Australia. So the irony of that wasn't lost on
Yeah.
me. And I think I had a first-hand glimpse of, my daughter struggling through COVID and the isolation and the anxiety that came for her, and not just her, for so many people everywhere, all around the world at that point. And I wanted to write an entry level, easy to understand, and accessible book for anyone, just to be able to first get a glimpse of what's possible when it comes to mindfulness and meditation and breath work and even personal growth. And so with that in mind, the book is written in that format. It's a very easy to understand entry level book around, what is mindfulness and what's beyond mindfulness, because it's more than just a technique. It's a way of perceiving the world, it's a way of relationship, and it's a way of really connecting to something much deeper within ourselves and the world around us. So that was the intention, and it was written in a hotbed of my own trauma and my own chaos of having to navigate, my business, not being able to operate properly, not being able to travel, and being separated from my, now wife. I've not even been able to see my daughter. Like, she was living in a different part of Australia at that point, and we weren't able to kind of see each other. Um, so it was all of those things considered, and was based on a very ancient teaching called the Four Foundations of Mindfulness, which is in the foundational practice of Buddhist meditation, but taught through a secular lens.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Is there a reason why you chose the title "Still Together"? Because I understand it as being still but together, and maybe many different understandings, but is there a specific reason why you chose that title?
Yeah, it was for that. It was almost a double entendre of sorts,
Hmm.
where there's this idea of cultivating stillness, but we do it in relationship to other people. And I think often when it comes to personal growth and mindfulness in particular, it can feel like it's a very personal journey. It can feel like it's something that is so isolating and it's just about us. But in reality, mindfulness is useless unless we're able to cultivate it in relationship to other people, and through other people. So I kind of emphasize in all of my work the relationality between mindfulness and spiritual practice with other people and with humanity at large.
Beautiful. Um, there's a passage of the book where you say, "You are not your thoughts," or your teacher
Mm,
said to you, "You are not your thoughts." And those five, you say, those five little words were like a magic potion. And this revelation is what served as my introduction to Buddhist meditation. Although I was born in Sri Lanka and raised in a Buddhist household, meditation was never a part of my parents' practice.
mm,
But this humble, wise Buddhist meditation teacher taught me that the wisdom to understand my suffering had been within me all along. I had the ability to train my mind and heart to connect to the present moment, see things as they really are, and in turn connect fully with life. Can you
mm.
tell us a little bit about that understanding from your teacher and realization and how you implement it today in your everyday life?
Yeah, I think it's really simple. Firstly, I've heard that line so many different times in so many different ways from different authors and things like that. But I think in all of our lives, sometimes we hear something at the right time, and it comes from the right voice, and then it just pierces through and it hits your heart. And it was a bit like that when I heard those five words come from my teacher at the very depths of, I think I was going through some really serious depression, or it was after a post-nervous breakdown. And so maybe I was more open and vulnerable and receptive, and maybe it was just the right moment, but it really did change my life. And what I'm really talking about in that moment is that at the course of our day, maybe even now, we are all navigating a stream of thoughts. Even maybe in our conversation, each of us is having thoughts about what's happening. And when we're not aware of them, those thoughts really run our life, and there was a point prior to that um, class that I spoke about where if I had a thought saying that, hey, go and binge eat right now because it'll make you feel good, I would just do it. I would go and eat anything I could just to feel good. And I would say I wouldn't feel good. I would feel shit afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
I also had a voice that said, you're not good enough. You're not worthy of this. You don't deserve this. You're unlovable. And that has many different flavors and many different expressions. But that is the underlying thought process that I had. And so when I talk about, we are not our thoughts, we really aren't, because if we were our thoughts, you know, we would be all over the place. We are this vessel that experiences thoughts just like clouds pass through the sky. And Pema Chodron, one of my favorite authors, once said that, you are the sky, everything is the weather. And that's probably a beautiful analogy to explain how we can perceive our own mind and our own sense of being. We are not each individual thought that passes through the mind. We are the sky. From time to time, there'll be clouds, and those clouds could be, I'm sad, I'm not, I'm a victim, I'm this and that. From time to time, it could be an aeroplane going through the sky saying, you're amazing, you're this, you're that. Um, and none of these are who we are, right? We are the experiencer of these things, but that's not who we really are.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to first have that level of self-awareness and then get to choose our next action can be really liberating for us as humans on this personal growth journey.
Amen to that. I was going to say that through the peaks and the valleys, we go through these experiences that don't don't necessarily define us, and we are so much more than our thoughts. So I thought it was so important to bring that up.
I think we
Um,
got a comment just asking if I could repeat the 5 words. And yeah, the 5 words are, you are not your thoughts.
yes, thank you for seeing that.
Yeah, of course.
And for saying it. You are not your thoughts is what Manoj was talking about, and how it really affected him at that particular moment in life, when sometimes we hear something and it's like, oh yeah, I heard it, but sometimes it really, really affects us. And my new thing that I say every day now is, I am where I'm meant to be,
Mm,
which is so powerful. And I could have heard it 5 years ago and it would have meant nothing to me.
right,
But the day that
right.
I heard it 2.5 years ago, it just, like you said, it pierced through my soul. And it was like, wow, okay, if I
Yeah.
just accept that I am where I'm meant to be, then I don't need to be in the future or in the past, but right here in the present. So,
Yeah, exactly right.
um, so I want to focus a little bit on the role of compassion in personal and professional life, and how mindfulness can help cultivate it. Um, how mindfulness and meditation can benefit everyone, regardless of your profession, your background. We know that life can be hectic and challenging, whether you're in a high stress job, an athlete, managing family responsibilities, dealing with personal struggles, um, whether you're in a white collar, blue collar, or no collar job at all. Compassionate living can make a significant difference in how we handle daily pressures. Can you tell us a little bit about how you've learned how mindfulness can help us become more compassionate towards ourselves and others in our daily lives?
Yeah, I think sometimes when we refer to compassionate living, it can sound like we're talking really fluffy around, like, let's live from the heart. Let's, let people walk over us, and let's kind of be a doormat for life. And it's such a shame that compassion is seen in that way in popular culture. When it comes to other qualities like strength or courage, you can name 100 people that display that. But when you're asked to talk about, oh, who are the compassionate people in life, you really have to dig deep. For me, compassionate living seriously is just a serious relationship with the head and the heart, and at times you need to use your knowledge, your wisdom, your intellect, and at times you need to soften back into acceptance and forgiveness and love and compassion, which are some of the qualities that we're born with. And so for me, moving through life as an entrepreneur, as a father, as a teacher, it's taking a step back and recognizing um, the impermanence of life, that we are all just impermanent suffering beings on this planet, that we all have a lack of understanding from time to time, that we all have a lot of complexity and nuance to our experience, and to treat myself with that same way. And when I begin to see myself in that same way, I'm more accepting and forgiving and flexible with my emotions and my thoughts, and that transpires and translates to how I see others. So for me, it's very rare that I hold grudges. It's very rare that I stay angry at people for a long time. Um, I accept that we make mistakes. I accept that fear runs through all of humanity, and we express ourselves based on that. And when we use that level of wisdom, which is again cultivated through research and philosophical study, um, we're just able to move through life a little bit more gently. And
Hmm.
that doesn't mean that shit doesn't happen, and that doesn't mean that I don't lose my cool, but it means I'm more flexible and I can bounce back a little easier. And that just supports the research as well. People
Yeah.
that are more compassionate with themselves tend to live longer, tend to experience oxidative stress a little less, tend to improve their sleep, tend to not suffer from cardiovascular disease as much. And so there is a physiological and health benefit from living in this way as well.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I wanted to also talk about, how I always say, David Goggins always says, life is going to smack you in the mouth. And it's just about how you react to it.
Mm,
And I think with compassionate living and empathy and understanding yourself and the things that are going to happen because it's life, it's not directed at you particularly, which a lot
mm,
of us feel like it is sometimes. It's very important to understand that life is gonna happen,
mm.
and you just have to be ready to accept the things that happen if you realize that you are not your thoughts or you are where you're meant to be.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
you
it's
know,
also, sorry to interrupt, just
no,
to
go
what
ahead.
you were saying. Like, I
Hmm.
really love that because it's the clear seeing is recognizing that suffering exists in our life, is that shitty things will happen. It's to realize that, we have in our DNA the capacity to endure. Our ancestors have endured, our species has endured. Like, so we're going to keep going. We're going to be okay. And just being more gentle in life, right? And more humorous and playful and loving just helps us navigate, this experience a little bit more gracefully and easily.
Exactly. And with people like you that are doing it so gracefully, it really helps a lot to
Mm,
kind of, recenter and realign and rebalance. Let's talk a little bit about the sports issue. Um, I wanted to create the sports issue, the theme of sports issue, because I have a few friends that are athletes and that had been going through a lot of adversities. And being
mm,
that we focus on promoting underrepresented creatives and entrepreneurs, I thought, let's focus on telling the story of athletes where, we don't often learn or know, the little guy that's doing the same work that the person that gets more of the visibility
mm,
is doing
mm,
is going through the same struggles as anybody else. And I met our cover feature, Austin Bryant, who plays for the San Francisco 49ers and is an NFL athlete. And we became friends, and I decided to feature him in the issue. And after learning about all the struggles that he had been through as an athlete and everything that, he went through that year, and still having gone through what most athletes in the NFL aim for, which is going to the Super Bowl, um, it was just a story that I was like, this story has to be told from his perspective because I would never imagine that that's what they go through.
mm,
So the sports issue, I wanted to focus on mental health and athletes, where they're often glorified, but the stories aren't told.
mm.
So with in our special sports issue, we highlight the importance of mental health for athletes, because they are human beings, just like us. Um, Are there any tips that you could give to specifically to athletes um, on mindfulness and in managing stress and improving their performances?
Yeah, I mean, I think to be honest, we're all athletes, and the game we're playing is life. I
That's a
can't
good
remember
point.
where I heard that quote.
That's
I
a
can't
good
remember
one.
where I heard that quote, but every day we're preparing to go into a game. We're preparing to perform in some way, shape, or time, shape or form. But athletes, in my experience, I've worked with a number of NBA players, and I've worked with NFL players, and I've worked with different athletes from time to time. They tend to be really driven, and sometimes it's by a lot of shame and fear, and to an extent, it gets them to a certain point. And I've witnessed with some of the people I've worked with that sometimes their performance can plateau, and it plateaus in game when, for example, you miss a shot and then you're overthinking that shot, and even if it's a point 0.3 of a second thought where you're like, oh damn, my team really needed to get this shot, and what does this mean, and are we in the playoffs or not? That can impact the very next play. So mindfulness is crucial at that point, at that moment, where we have to be present. We have to be in the moment. If we miss a shot, we let it go. We don't hold on to it. We don't create a story and a narrative around it. We just have to be ready for the very next moment and the very next play. So in that aspect, mindfulness is almost crucial to the experience of an athlete. And we saw this with some of the greatest NBA players. Kobe Bryant, and Michael Jordan. They both studied with a teacher called George Mumford. And actually, I think it was he taught. I think that he trained the whole Lakers team
Hmm.
at that point when they won the championship. So I feel like mindfulness and sports performance are kind of blending, and it's so much more of a performance aspect these days. But my learning over the last few years is how developing a quality of innate friendship with our bodies, with ourselves, through practices like compassion or loving kindness, and different heart-based practices can actually help us perform a little bit better. Because there's this ingrained recognition that we are good, that we are okay, that we are powerful, and this next shot missing isn't going to define us. We just keep moving forward, and there's a level of balance to that experience.
That's a great answer and so powerful. I think, what is it? Something like Tony Robbins said something about Stephen Curry and how maybe he's made, you know, 3,000 shots out of the 300,000 that he's shot. And, does that define who he is as an
Mm,
athlete or many others, whether it's tennis or NFL or soccer or whatever it might be? So I think it's very important to amplify the message of mental health, mental
mm,
fitness
mm.
is something that we all struggle with, but specifically for athletes based on our recent issue
Right.
that we were um, lucky enough to feature you in. I, I wanted to bring, for those new to mindfulness, what are some simple practices they can start with to lead a more balanced life?
I mean, the most simple practice you can do is to walk. To walk outside without a phone, without headphones, without anyone, disturbing you. I mean, that has benefits as well to walk with friends and to connect socially in that way. But I think the easiest thing we can do these days, given so many of us are so connected to technology, is to walk outside. The moment we walk outside, if we're in nature, then automatically our um, our body begins to settle down. There's a lot of research showing that if we look off into the distance, off into a horizon, for
Mhm.
example, then cortisol and adrenaline start to drop down in our body, and we start to shift into a parasympathetic nervous system state. And that simply means that we're telling our brain and our body that it's okay, we can rest, we can digest our food, we're safe.
Hmm.
So going for a walk is a simple way of connecting to the present moment, taking in what we see, looking at the colors, looking at the people, noticing our breath from time to time. Is it up near the chest? Is it near the belly? Tuning into our body from time to time, like what do my feet feel when they touch the
Hmm.
ground, and how do my hips respond, and what's my posture like? If we have the ability to be further out into nature, like a beach or, in a park, grounding our feet, feeling the texture of the grass underneath. They're really simple ways of first getting acquainted with the world and the ecosystem of mindfulness. But then beyond that, if we want to have a formal meditation practice, I like the idea of think big, start small.
Mm.
We think big in the sense that this is going to be a way of life. For the rest of my life, I'm going to meditate.
Hmm.
Um, and sometimes that can feel so overwhelming and daunting for the rest of my life. Like, I don't know what's going to happen in my life.
Yeah.
But if we tell ourselves that, for the rest of my life, I'm going to meditate, but all I'm going to do is spend 5 minutes every day just sitting and observing my breath, or sitting and listening to sounds, or sitting and taking in what I see or what I feel, it becomes so easy. You can do that in an
Yeah.
airplane, you can do that in the shower, you can do that while you brush your teeth. Um, so that's a really good place to begin. And then a lot of people may try meditation for the first time and say, oh, it's not for me, it doesn't work. So, in those instances, I suggest finding a technique that really works for you, because there are so many meditations. I stick to the realm of secular mindfulness and Buddhist meditation, mainly because there's a lot of research and science connected to both of those two techniques and ecosystems. And they're all very rooted in what's tangible, what's here. It's
Mm-hmm.
not, you know, there are different kinds of meditation, but it's very much rooted in Western psychology and the philosophy of Buddhist practice.
I'm going to ask a question for my husband because he started meditating recently. He's originally from Ireland. We met
Mm,
here, and he's completely changed his life, and I'm so proud of him. In the last year, he's just started. He started doing 75 hard, and he's been reading 10 pages a day. He's read like 4 books in the last couple of months, and he's really practicing mindfulness. But he told me that when he meditates, that he always falls asleep. So, can you give a little bit of insight on with meditation? It's just really, as they say, coming into yourself, noticing your breath, and just being present in the moment. For me, that's what it is anyway. But can you answer to his question? How does he not fall asleep?
yeah, I mean, maybe he just needs to sleep, which is great. A lot of people
He could
struggle.
sleep on a
Great.
clothesline. Literally could sleep on a clothesline.
Um, the tips that I would give is firstly to be mindful of the times that he's meditating, and where. So if he's meditating in bed at night, it's there's an association there that sleep is nearby, and he can feel like it's time to go to sleep. If he's in a position like he's laying down, and that's the way he's meditating, again, that could lead to him falling asleep. Um, he, if he's doing it when he's really tired, that could also be another reason why he's falling asleep. So I tend to tell people that, if you're struggling to stay awake during practice, try different postures. Sit up,
Mhm.
sit in a way where it's hard to fall asleep. Then you can open your eyes. That's another way to practice. You focus on one thing. Maybe, there's a candle lit and you're not focusing on the candle, but you're looking through the candle.
Mm,
um, I tell people to stand up sometimes. Meditating, standing up is another way that the Buddha taught that we could practice. And then think about the technique itself. If the technique itself is, or the guided meditation or whatever it is that he's listening to, is a relaxation
mm,
meditation, then of course he's going to fall asleep. And maybe
right.
that's the goal. So with mindfulness, or concentration practice, it's a little different. You're focusing on your breath, which takes concentration, which takes effort.
Hmm.
And sometimes you might go 3 to 6 months falling asleep. But if you keep the intention of coming back to that one thing, then over time you're beginning to change your brain, and you're beginning to create new neural pathways that activate, that help you focus and keep your attention on one thing.
I love that. I hope that's also helpful for the audience, but um, I'll definitely let him know if he's not on. But tell us a little bit about the nervous system reset. I know that you have many different ways that you teach breath work exercises, especially at your open studio in LA and online. But can you tell the audience a little bit about nervous system reset?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of research coming out around how the nervous system really influences our health. And it's probably been around for a long time, but there's a lot more buzz and a lot more people talking about it these days. And really, what we're starting to learn is there are these ancient tools and techniques born out of breathing exercises that have started 2,500 years ago, if not longer, that help us very immediately and quickly shift our nervous system. So, if you're in a state of fear, for example, you're probably beating really quickly through the chest. And there's a technique that'll help you shift that breath into the belly, where you're breathing through the diaphragm and you're in more of a parasympathetic state. And then there's the inverse of that. If you're feeling really sleepy, like maybe your husband, he needs to wake up quickly, there's a technique that he can do that will bring the nervous system up. And so being able to regulate our nervous system is how we reset it, right? Being
Mhm.
able to use our breath, to be able to use our mind, to be able to use our intellectual understanding of our own biomechanics and our own health is a way we reset our nervous system. And so there's this series that we created on the Open app that really help us, gain more understanding and agency around how we can respond out there in the world with these walking nervous systems we have within us.
Thank you for sharing that. I saw you the other day on your Instagram doing something that you called nerve flossing, which I was like, I'm obsessed. I need to ask him
I
about
was
this.
doing it.
Can you
I don't
I
know if
think
I
you
was
were,
doing that.
it was you. You were like moving around
Oh,
and you were
oh
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
nerve.
That's right. Yeah,
Yes, you were.
I forget some of the things that I do. Yeah, that really speaks to this emerging field of somatic psychology and somatic understanding around how so many people are traumatized in one way, shape, or form. And that's not a big T trauma. Like, we have had this one experience that has really impacted our lives, but it's these, really subtle experiences that can create how we relate to the world. And so, so much of meditation over the last 30, 40, 50 years has been around the understanding that it's all in the mind. But, a lot of teachers are now beginning to integrate the body as part of the mind. And in, Buddhist philosophy and Buddhist psychology, there is no word for the mind. There's a word called um, heart mind, which is chitta, right? It's known as one thing. So nerve flossing is essentially starting to just move the body in a way where we're starting to work with certain nerves, either in the spine or the hips or the shoulders, that give us some sort of relational understanding around what's happening there, because they can tend to bunch up, they can tend to group up, whether it's through fascial tissue or whether
Mm,
it's two nerves that tend to bind over time. There are subtle movements that we can start to integrate into our body and into our life that help us kind of start to untangle them a little bit.
Thank you for sharing that. I wanted to give the audience a little bit of maybe a few tips and maybe ask them to throw in a couple of questions on anything that you need some guidance on that maybe Manoj can help answer. But what are a few small, like you said, think big but start small, like three tips that you think to help someone that maybe is new to meditation or mindfulness that want to live a compassionate life and connect with individuals? What can you share with us?
Yeah, three tips are that you cannot change what you cannot see. And so being able to see is what mindfulness is all about. We are becoming mindful of our thoughts, mindful of our patterns, mindful of our actions. So tip number one is to cultivate that level of self-awareness, and that takes looking. And mindfulness is one way, but also just paying attention to the quality of our mind throughout the day.
Hmm.
Um, Tip number two is that a lot of people want to go from a 0 to 100, right? They want to go from never meditating and maybe being anxious, or sad or depressed, to going into becoming this perfect meditator. And that's really, it's very difficult. Even I struggled for many years. And so we need to be able to dedicate time to anything. It's like, I'm not much of a like a weightlifter, but if I was to go into the gym and lifted weights once, I wouldn't try and lift 100 kilos in my first time going there and then expect, my arms to grow. It takes time. It takes a whole bunch of other things. It takes eating right, getting enough sleep, all of those things. So with mindfulness is the same thing. Think big, start small comes in, but also dedicate yourself to that, because it's a way of relating to the world that will, if you give it space and time and practice, will change your life. I 100% have seen that, in all of my life. It is something that can not only transform our life, it can transform our future kids' lives, it can transform, the people around us, our parents, all of that. Um, and the third thing is that it's not the silver bullet, right?
Yeah.
So yes, it can transform your life, all of these things, but it's not what's going to fix whatever you think needs to be fixed. Because I, come from the school of thought that we don't need to be fixed. We are, good, whole, complete in many ways. And yes, we have little things that pop up, and yes, we need improvement. But if we begin meditating from the place of, I need to be fixed, I need to be better, I need to heal, I need to do that, then, it ultimately amplifies whatever thought pattern we're carrying in that moment, right? Where it begins to transform us is if we realize that, okay, I am good, I am whole, I'm complete, I am all of these things, and this is just going to bring these qualities out even more. And then
Wow.
it's a much more sustainable way of practicing meditation, and a much more sustainable relationship we're building with ourselves.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I think it's so important with, you know, the you are not your thoughts. I am where I'm meant to be. It's so important to say that to ourselves, especially when you're an entrepreneur or you're in a space in your life currently where you feel maybe less than. I think it's important to know that you are where you're meant to be and you are not your thoughts. And life is going to happen no matter what. And you just need to be content with who you are. And mindfulness will help you to become compassionate to others, which will then lead to a better life.
Yeah, I mean, like that's like, one of the final things I really want to say about that is that, you don't need to be fixed. Anyone listening this, anyone rewatching it, there is nothing wrong with you. And if you listen to social media, it will tell you that there are so many things that are wrong with you. It'll tell you to buy all of these products that will help you and fix you, and it'll make you feel worse than you already feel. You are already perfect. You are already beautiful. You are special. Um, what practice helps you with is just to see that a bit more clearly. And we have glimpses of this in our life, but, really, ultimately, all it is doing is taking us back to a place of recognizing our innate wholeness. And anyone listening, you don't have to earn this level of acceptance. You don't have to feel like you don't deserve it. It is your birthright. It is there. It is present. Clear away all the thoughts, and you will see it so clearly. And at that point, you'll almost laugh. You're like, I can't believe that I used to think these crazy thoughts. And, you know, the internet or society or my parents or my culture taught me to feel this way about myself. But, ultimately, we are inherent, beautiful, perfect, good beings.
Thank you for that. Final message you would like to leave our audience with about the importance of mindfulness and compassion, which you just shared with us. But is there anything else you want to add to that and tell our audience where they can find you and support you and um, uh, learn about the open studio in LA, your open app? Tell them a little bit about more of the items that you're using to help the world understand mindfulness.
Yeah, I mean, the final thing I'll say is that, we all have short lives. And ultimately, some of the things that we stress about don't mean anything. And some of the things that we're chasing in life won't bring us happiness. And thinking that they will is deluding ourselves, thinking that if we get this amount of money and then I'll be happy, or I'll get this job and then I'll be happy, or I'll get a partner and then I'll be happy, won't make a difference if we start from the fact that we're incomplete. So, I mean, all my work is reorientating people to just accept themselves, love themselves, recognize that they have everything that's already with them to be able to live a meaningful life, to be able to live a generous and altruistic life. Um, and yeah, I hope their work in some way informs them of that. The Open app and the Open Studio also exists to hopefully do just that, whether it's through our Instagram, where we cultivate wisdom, whether it's through our app, where we have different breathwork techniques, different movement techniques, and guided meditations, or whether it's our studios. Our first one is in Venice, and the intention is not just to come and practice and to feel good, but it's to come and connect. It's to feel like we are part of something much bigger than ourselves, that we are human in many ways. And for anyone that's been to our studios or has experienced a class in some way, um, it can be a very cathartic experience. It can be an emotional experience. It can be a profound recognition of someone's humanity, where they realize that we're all part of one thing, whatever that thing is, and whatever we believe in, and whether we believe in a God or anything else, that there is something that unites us as a species, and that's the human experience. So, yeah, I think every bit of work that I put out there, or bit of work that Open as a whole puts out there, is reorientating us to that same belief.
Thank you so much for your time. I'm gonna say Alex was films says I am happy because I am, which I think is so important to um, you know, let other people know that don't let people deter your energy and where you might be at that moment. And if they're not understanding or happy for you, you don't let them ruin your energy. Um, Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Please see Manoj's full feature article written by our contributing writer, Angelique Redwood. Follow us on Trua Magazine and help support Trua to promote underrepresented creatives and entrepreneurs through our digital platform, an immersive digital magazine, and our 100% sustainable print magazine, which we are trying to launch right now and need everybody's help. We need 500 subscribers to launch the print, which is also a very important thing to me because it focuses on reforestation efforts around the world. Right now, our efforts are focused in Ghana, Thailand, and the Philippines. For every print copy and print subscription we sell, we plant a tree in one of those three places. And in the Philippines, we've also started to remove a kilogram of plastics in the ocean. And we will be partnering soon with Charity Water, whose goal in life is to make sure that every single human being has access to clean water. And part of our proceeds will go to them to help continue that effort. So we hope you'll read about Manoj's life and journey through Trua Magazine and continue to support him through all of his different platforms and mediums. Manoj, thank you so much for joining us today. It's such an honor and pleasure to have you be part of our realm, and thank you for what you do. And I hope that we continue to support and collaborate together.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for joining in. It means a lot. And thank you, Tristan, for your beautiful questions and presence.
Absolutely. Thank you. Everyone, have a great day and have a beautiful, beautiful, mindful July. Bye. All right. So this is the part where thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you guys. Thank you. Please do follow and support. Um, We will have more lives coming up, and with some more inspiring underrepresented creatives and entrepreneurs in all different walks of life. So we hope that you will support us and continue to show up. And we appreciate your time, and have a beautiful rest of your day and a mindful life. Thank you.